Hey folks, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. Welcome back to another weekly Coaches Chat. Today is a Monday night for November 10th. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about self-care. Part of what we do here inside Endurance Nation as we work to empower athletes to be incredibly self-coached and sustaining is give them tips and insights on how to improve in a manner that doesn't take a huge chunk of time or energy or money. One of the sort of big myths about triathlon is sort of deconstructing excellence, right? People will say, "Wow, Jane or Jim, they're really, really fast. How did Jim get really, really fast?" Well, Jim always, every time I see Jim, he's always biking super, super long on the weekend. So I've got to bike super, super long on weekends. And, Jim apparently only eats like Snickers bars and Mountain Dew. So I must also eat those things. And so what people will do is they will go out and emulate someone who's successful. And that works in a lot of different scenarios. If you find, someone who's a great, maybe concert pianist or something, and you want to practice like that, or maybe someone at work, a coworker who's really good at something, you can try and break things down because many of those things are skill related. But when it comes to you and to your body and to your ability to perform as an athlete, emulating others is really not a great strategy because there's so much of you in the equation. And when you focus externally on another athlete or their success, you're missing out on a lot of the little decisions that they're making. So, you could see somebody run by and say, wow, she's really, really fast. I want to be fast like her. And then you find out, what she did yesterday, and then you do that and see if you're fast tomorrow. There's a lot that goes into the decision-making process for that athlete, for that person, all the things that she's put together to be in that scenario. And so it's very hard to compare. You can go out for a ride on the weekend and ride with, you and your friends, and you could be super duper strong. Well, maybe you're super duper strong because you took 3 days off. But your friends don't know that. So they're trying to beat you even though you've had 3 days off and they haven't. So, just trying to go at it like that, apples and oranges don't really work. So one of the things that we're trying to tell our athletes, especially this winter, as we continuously work to improve our training programs and in particular our out-season training program, which is what 95% of our athletes are in right now. So we're looking specifically at how to manage your time between workouts. One of the sort of hidden elements of the out season that makes it so successful isn't just the workouts, right? Because the workouts are part of the equation. One of the reasons I believe that the out season is so successful is because you're working out for an hour and you're killing yourself. You're doing a great workout. But then you've got 23 hours of rest, which is almost unheard of in the world of triathlon. And that alone makes you super strong. And you don't get that very often in other programs. We get people asking us all the time, "Hey, I'm looking at your Ironman training plan and there's really no days of rest. Where are my days of rest?" But when we show them the workouts in the out season, when they have almost 23 hours between workouts, which is almost a day of rest between workouts, they say that's too much. So you give people a day to recover, it's too much. But you show them workouts organized in an Ironman plan that are structured to build that fatigue in a sustainable way. You say that's too much, right? So it's kind of this sort of strange place where triathletes sort of exist in the middle of. And one of the ways that we encourage you to kind of beat that is to find patterns, habits, pathways for you to be successful that just take small, sort of micro bursts of focus or energy. So tonight, what I'm going to talk to you about, and I have to bear with me as I toggle between windows here. Tonight, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is what I'm calling self-care in 15 minutes a day. And the concept is just primarily, look, you and I both know that we have to take care of ourselves as athletes. There's just no two ways about it. You can't just go out and work out, hit it hard every day. But that said, it's hard to get that extra stuff done outside of the context of your workout. It's easy for you and I to budget, 45 minutes for a run or 1 hour for a swim. But it's not so easy to budget time to say 15 minutes of core, right? Or 10 minutes of core. And I used to think it was a timing thing, who can find 15 minutes. Like if I have an hour, I'm going to use the hour to spend that time cycling or running, not just spending half of it doing something else, right? Didn't seem like an equal trade-off for me. So I'm going to break down how you can make this work for you. And this is based off of my own experience, and then also what I've seen the last decade of working with athletes in terms of how they've been successful. Okay. Step number one. Step number one is to define a time window. Okay. So don't just look at it as I'm picking, biking versus core or yoga versus swimming. Find a time window. Okay. This time window is ideally distraction free. So you're not choosing between like playing with my kids or doing this workout, or playing a video game or doing this workout, right? It's very focused. It's your time. It's distraction free. It should be a time window that is equipment accessible, which means you should be able to get your hands on what you need. So it could be at your house. If it's at your house and you've got open time, right, you could do it at night or in the morning. If your program requires you to be at a gym, then your options for time are strong. So it should be equipment accessible, right? And ideally, you should have options for time. For me, it means early in the morning or late at night. I kind of get to choose those windows when my kids are asleep. And then it lets me do my stuff in the day that I normally do, including my training. So find that time that is distraction-free, equipment accessible, and ideally you have options. You can do either or. You're not blocked just in a one set time, okay? Our number 2 step here is to make it a habit. It usually takes about a couple weeks to make something a habit. So for me, I set a reminder. Like seriously, if you have a goal, put it somewhere where you can see it and you stick with it. So I've got stuff written down in my pain cave. I've got stuff written down on my to-do list here on the computer. I got a piece of paper, a list that I carry with me on my phone. All of those places say the same thing regarding my extra credit work, okay? I tell other people about it. In my case, since I do my extra credit work at night, I tell my wife about it. Tonight, when we watch TV for half an hour, I'm going to do my exercises, reinforcing what I'm going to do, sharing that goal with someone else, asking for some accountability back, okay? And then also you want to make sure that you have everything you need. Something's going to be a habit. You can't get really good at, foam rolling if you don't have a foam roller, where you're at. So make sure you have the stuff that you need. Make sure it's accessible. Excuse me. In my case, that means having the foam roller not too far from where I watch TV, which doesn't necessarily jive so well with my wife, but I've got it there, okay? That's step 2. Step 3 is to define your focus. There's a lot of different things we can work on, okay? And I recommend that you try and keep it as simple as possible. It's very easy to get carried away. Everyone wants to be, stronger, fitter, and more flexible all at the same time. No, it's not exactly so easy to do. Let's break it off into small chunks and do it right. So let's focus, okay? I recommend you start off with just one thing. I'm just gonna focus on flexibility or strength or something like that, right? Keep it seasonally relevant. So, excuse me, in the out season, in the wintertime, you might be focusing on one thing, say, maybe more with your legs, for example. Whereas in season, you might be focusing more on your upper body and your shoulders for all that aero bar time or swim time, okay? So make sure it's relevant. So you'll see some effects, some carryover from the work that you're doing in your extra credit time into your actual training. When you start to see that transfer, you start to develop this, virtuous circle of, extra credit work, training, improved performance, more extra credit work, more training, more improved performance, and so on. It builds on one another, okay? And then in season, as you progress, in season, you can start to make this routine as it's become a habit for you. You developed it in the out season. In season, you can start to, add more depth to that program. It doesn't just have to be flexibility. It could be a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of strength, right? But we develop that fluency and the knowledge of where to focus our efforts in any given particular session over time as we engage in more focused, single focus sessions right now in the winter, okay? So what am I talking about? Well, let me give you some examples. I apologize, I got like a post-nasal drip thing going on and it's just killing me on the inside. Thanks for understanding. So an example, right? So one example is super easy, is flexibility. So equipment that I need are a yoga mat and a foam roller for me, okay? So I basically will do a light stretch. I've got a couple key areas I need to work on. For me, my quads and my hamstrings are super duper tight. My hips aren't so great either. So I've got light stretching that I do on those areas very quickly, short stuff, just nothing too deep, but just kind of getting loose and getting in there, finding out, where I am today, what point can I get to. Then I'll foam roll those areas. I'll foam roll the quads, the hamstrings, my glutes, and so on, my psoas, all in there. And I'll do that for a couple minutes on each body part. And then I'll go back to a little bit more deeper stretching once those muscles have been kind of warmed up a little bit and loosened. That's all it takes, about 15 minutes, which doesn't sound like very much. But again, when you do that 3 times a week, times 15 minutes, all of a sudden that's 45 minutes. That's almost an hour worth of stretching you just did there. That's a pretty powerful stretching session. And we broke it down to a manageable chunk. You did it at a time that worked for you. It was very easy. And ideally, you get better at it. 15 minutes seems like nothing. It's just something that you do, becomes a habit, and it really builds up across your year. Okay? Another example will be strength. In this case, it might be a yoga mat. Again, I have got hardwood floors, so I need a yoga mat all the time. Yoga mat, maybe some dumbbells, or perhaps a stretch cord or something similar, some sort of resistance device, okay? Again, I'd do that same light stretching. So if I'm focusing on my upper back, say I'll do some stretches in my back and the opposing stretch in my chest, my pec muscles, right? I'll do some body weight warm up for me, which is general, a couple push-ups, a couple crunches, and I'll even do, some work on my lower back, which typically, on my hands and knees, and I'll put out, my right arm and I'll extend my left leg. So I'm balancing on my left arm and my right knee, okay? And then I'll put those down and then I'll alternate. So I'll do those just to warm up. So I've warmed up my chest, my shoulders, I've warmed up my back, my glutes, right? And I've warmed up a little bit of my core as well, my abs. Just nothing crazy, just a little circuit, get the blood flowing. And then I'll focus in on my core strength. Ideally, this is done as a circuit. So it's not going to the gym and doing 3 by 6 reps at, 95% of your 1 rep max. It's, maybe your strength session is focusing on lower legs. You might do, some lunges and then some calf raises. You might do some leg extensions with your cord, for example. You might do some wall sits. It could be a variety of different things that you're focusing on your routine. If you're that focused state just on lower legs, it's hard to stack all those up. So I would alternate with some core exercises. So I would do, wall sit for 60 seconds, then I do 20 crunches, and I do calf raises for a minute, and I do, 8 push-ups. And then I would do my leg extensions for a minute, and then I do 20 crunches again. So you've got some break between that focus of an area, but you're still getting a continuous workout, and you do 2 or 3 times through that, should be pretty burnt, should be pretty good, okay? If you have a chance to cool down afterwards, all on you. But again, that's 15, maybe 20 minutes with that session, right? And you can alternate, you can focus 1 week or 2 weeks on lower body, then go upper body, maybe shoulders, arms. Who knows what you want to focus on? Part of it's your sport, part of it's just what you want to work on. You might be all into your arms, I don't know, so you can work on that, all right? And then the final option we have here, I would put down, so we talked about flexibility and strength. The final option I would give you is what I would call rebuilding, which is a phase that I seem to find myself in more often than not these days, which is, kind of rehabbing from an injury or an accident, or just a deficiency that I've found that's sort of affecting my performance. So again, got your yoga mat, and then whatever equipment is also associated with that, typically something your physical therapist would remind you, which means if your physical therapist told you about it, it's lighter than you would ever pick for yourself, and you do it in such a way that it really, really hurts, and it's not in any way impressive at all to you or anybody else. You should have your list of key exercises. For me right now, I'm working on my shoulders. I've got a little bit of left shoulder pain. Diagnosis that I've got actually really weak upper back muscles. So I'm doing lots of work targeting the back, upper back, like row exercises, specific target exercises with like 5-pound dumbbells. So, excuse me, I've got my dumbbells, I got my workout set. So I'll, do my key exercises. I do a light stretch beforehand, then I'll do my key exercises, alternating in some core and other work as I can, just to kind of, get some bonus time out of it. But I can only do so many reps with my 4-pound dumbbell. So I do a couple reps and I'll do some core, and then I'll do some more reps and core, and then I'm focusing on the left side, but I'll do it on my right side as well, and then do some core. Just keep mixing it up, do a wall sit in there, get my 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm done. My point is this, becoming better as a triathlete means being able to stay in the game longer, reducing the risk of injury or setback. One of the best ways to do that, aside from just not getting injured, is just spend time getting to know yourself from a flexibility standpoint, a strength standpoint, identifying your core areas, your weaknesses, seeing as they improve or decline, I guess, across the season. That knowledge is like an early warning system for you before you have a problem. People just wake up and say, oh my God, my calf, I pulled my calf. 9 times out of 10, they had a problem. It wasn't a traumatic injury out of nowhere. They were already experiencing something, but they kind of had ignored it. They weren't really paying attention to it. This type of routine is not, it sounds kind of complicated now, but it's very simple. So establishing this kind of routine allows you to build in and develop, and in a small incremental way, the knowledge and understanding of where you're at, but also what work it takes to make you stronger. It's amazing. 15 minutes of some core strength 3 times a week is actually quite a bit in relation to everything else. If you're training 10 hours a week and you just add another hour, you've added 10% basically to your training. That's a huge gain. 10% more training on another area that translates to all the other areas of your training. And you'll notice it, for me, I always notice in the out season when my extra credit work carries on, because more often than not, in season, I don't have the bandwidth. If I'm training 15 hours in my peak weeks for an Ironman, I don't have time to add in all this extra work. I'm just trying to get to the pool, or I'm trying to get to a PT session for recovery, or perhaps a massage, or I'm trying to keep up with the kids in the summertime. So just another reason why doing all this extra credit self-care work in the wintertime is so critical. When you've got the time, when you're limited to 1 session a day, or even you have some time off on Mondays and Fridays. This is an opportunity for you to establish a habit that across 14 weeks, 45 minutes times 14 weeks, that's almost 14 hours worth of time. That's a good chunk of solid work that will really help you set the stage for an improved 2015 season and beyond. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in for the chat and my topic for tonight. I'm going to head over to the chat room right now, see what folks have to say. Tonight we have Dana, we have Ed, we've got John. What's up, John? Nice to see you here. We got Matt, who I don't know. Welcome, Matt. We got Mike Roberts. How's it going, brother? We got Phil Mills, Rachel, Easy Ha, and Mr. Rob Sabo. How you doing, Rob? Nice to hear from you. If you guys have any questions or feedback from me, or thoughts about how to work this in your winter training protocols, I am super happy to answer them for sure. Like I said, for me, a lot of times the choices that I make in the winter are increasingly less defined by me and more defined by my body, or what my physical therapist or my massage therapist says to me about my body. It's amazing how focused we can become on our goals, that it's not easy to see how we've made sacrifices in sort of our overall wellness or total strength profile. You don't need to have particularly strong I have no idea, delts to be a great triathlete, but they do help you in a great deal with your swimming and your position on the bike. And if you've got weak delts, that can hurt over time. So it's amazing how even a small focus can work. And also, I want to point out, excuse me, that I'm not saying that you need to sign up and do P90X. I'm not saying you need to go out and join a CrossFit facility and do an hour of strength every single day. That stuff is awesome, and if you're into that, that's fantastic. But I found more often than not, for most triathletes who also want to improve the bike and the run, and if we've talked you out of the swim for right now, you also want to improve that in season, to add a phenomenal, challenging strength workout on top of the other work you're trying to do, for most humans is, quite frankly, not achievable. Can't exceed it or succeed at all, because it exceeds your ability to process. Even working with people who are fitness professionals, some of the hardest people that I've ever worked with were fitness professionals who, by definition, spent 3 to 4 hours a day just exercising, even at lower levels of intensity, and then tried to train on top of it. And it almost doesn't work. And these are people whose jobs it is just to exercise and rest. They're not really commuting like you are. They're not really stuck at a desk for 8 hours. They have other time in their day. But even despite that time to recover from these other workouts and so on, they really struggle to do so, And so it's important to realize that, our performance is intrinsically centered on our ability to do the best we can within a given workout and then recover from that work. And sometimes your ability to push hard and recover is not just dictated by carbohydrates and proteins or altitude levels or equipment. It's also dedicated by or dictated by the conditions in which we set for that exercise and recovery to happen. And in this case, I'm arguing that the self-care conditions, these small decisions that we make over time, can have massive impacts on your fitness down the season. And it doesn't have to be anything massive. People used to give me a hard time always at our training camps, Tour of California training camp. We're biking, anywhere from 5 to 7 hours a day, epic cycling, just crazy stuff. And I'd be up at 5, I'd go for a 30-minute run and I'd do a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups before I got on the bike. And people said, what are you, the biking is not enough, what's wrong with you? Well, no, for me, I had a week, away from my family where I'm training. I'm gonna train. I'm gonna do a lot of crazy training. I'm not gonna do, off the charts training that's gonna really set me back, but I'm gonna keep my run up and I'm gonna work on my core strength because I can, because I don't have to be sitting in front of a computer today. So I have that time. So when I have that time, I make the most of that time, just like I'm urging you now in the winter to make that time and see if you've got that opportunity to see the improvement. And also for those of you, I'm reminded by you, Rob, because you're here. I know you've been struggling with that hamstring issue and so on. Now's a great time to kind of dial it back and really do all the work. We don't have the volume on the schedule. Really, step back, rebuild it, do the strength work, strengthen the opposing muscles, do the dry needling, all the stuff that you can do now when you don't have the stress of the work at the same time or the need to have that work. You could say, hey, I'm gonna take 8 weeks and try and figure this bad boy out before I start reintroducing intensity. You have that opportunity now to create those conditions, should you so choose, if that's where you're at, right? All right, let me head back over. Okay, Matt's got it here. Let's see what Matt has to say. Matt says, hey, Coach Patrick, I don't have any physical issues, fingers crossed, but do you have any suggestions for preventative maintenance type exercises I should or could do? Sure, Matt. I will say that, if you have a physical therapist, you can always go in and just get an assessment. Like they have a system by which they can sort of assess your entire body range of movement, strength, et cetera. That's a great thing to do. Costs money typically to do that. Generally for now in the out season, things that I focus on are, two things that I would personally look at. One is making sure that my legs are, recovered and stretched. So for a lot of people, moving from their traditional training in season to doing intensity on the bike and the run in such a focused period in the out season is quite stressful. It's a challenge. Some people respond to it. Some people do respond for a little bit and then they have issues. Some people are just too tired from the outset. So I definitely recommend, calves, quads, hamstrings, all the lower leg stuff, just making sure you're a happy camper and being on top of that. And that's just flexibility work. Coach Rich has worked on adding I think he did a fantastic job, functional strength program to complement the out season this year. And I strongly encourage you to check that out as well. That's the kind of stuff that's going to set you up to have a great swim build in season when we get there. You can't just wake up in March and say, now I'm a swimmer. There's a lot sort of strength and fluency. You need, control, actual physical control, having engaged particular muscles to be able to re-engage them when we want them to, when we want you to engage them in season. That also helps. So I would look into that as both of those being baselines for you right now. Also, if you have any predefined issues, people don't normally think about, like, cramping on the bike in a particular muscle, or perhaps issues on the run, or perhaps you have had training issues in the past. If you know that like back-to-back days of running are bad, then we have to make those adjustments in your plan. And you can do that with me in the microform. Or if you run longer than 10 miles, you run into issues like, Coach Rich has challenges running over, say, 13 miles. So he can modify his plan to have, 2 by 13 miles in a week and adjust that so he gets in, 2 quality runs that add up in addition to the shorter runs, but never exceed that sort of, danger zone for him. So don't hesitate to not just ask me, but go back over your training log or, sit down with a pen and paper and think back to your last season, the last 2 seasons, and identify those areas where you have had those issues pop up. Okay. Ed says, what's up, Ed? I am biased, but having 2 brothers who are chiropractors and a wife who is an occupational therapist, keeping total body health is so important. Chiropractic is also minimally invasive. Yeah, some people love their chiropractor. I also enjoy going to my chiropractor. For me, I have a lot of tightness in my thoracic spine, which is kind of the upper area of my spine. Let me pull up the camera here. Hold on. Where am I? So like this upper back, kind of where the hood is right there, but it's where the letters are down here at the bottom. Where's my hand? I can't get my hand up there. Good God, I'm so tight. Look at that. You can't even put my hand right down there by the upper back area. So for me, it's super, super tight. And it's not something I can naturally get to, by twisting my back or stretching my legs. I've actually, working with my physical therapist, I'm using, believe it or not, 2 lacrosse balls kind of taped together so I can go up and down the side of my spine as a massage mechanism as well. But typically when I'm in season, I do see a chiropractor. I personally find it, relaxing and enabling to me to sort of get into my typical sort of movement patterns. Some people are not down with it. Your own mileage may vary, but it's true. I personally have noted how crazy it is. It all matters. I mean, talk about occupational therapy. Right now I'm at a standing desk workstation. I don't even know here. I'm not sure how far I can move my computer right now because it's all plugged in here. Well, there goes the power cord. But there's my standing monitor, my super fancy setup. Right there you are, on top of the kid's step stool that I stole, on top of a butcher block that I stole from my kitchen, right? And then over here on this side, hold on, I'm back on this side. Because I'm on the 3rd floor, I've got my whiteboard up there. So when I'm typically working here, I'm standing up. I stand all day. Sitting down kills me. Sitting down really tightens up my hips, and so on. It's one of the biggest changes I've made to just the daily construct within which I work that I really believe has become super beneficial to me overall. Extended periods of time sitting. It's really detrimental to your overall flexibility and just general well-being from studies and so on. Granted, most of us, by virtue of exercising an hour or 2 a day, are outliers on those sort of general spectrums. But for me, I found it really beneficial, and it's definitely changed the way that I work. So there's lots of little things you can do. So I created conditions to be successful as an athlete by rethinking how I worked here in my office. And I invested that time and a little bit of money, not very much money, but invest a little bit of money in making it happen. So that's been beneficial for me. You too can do the same thing, whether it's at work or, as I'm suggesting here in this talk, by building in a habit of some self-care as well, which doesn't have to be as crazy as you think. Okay, awesome. Well, it is 9:30, so unless anyone else has another question, I'm going to sign out for this week's Coaches Chat. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, happy to give you some insight and tidbits, hopefully, to make you a smarter and faster triathlete. Those of you who are not on the team who are checking this out, remember, you can come see us online at endurancenation.us. Go to endurancenation.us/join. You can create your own free 7-day trial to check out our 46+ training plans. Connect with Coach Rich for a triathlon season roadmap. Connect with me, Coach Patrick, for an introductory call, and we can talk about your year and map things out, then get you plugged into the team right now. We can plug you right into our out-season training plan, 14 weeks of awesomely hard work to prepare you for your 2015 season. This is Endurance Nation. We are the world's largest and fastest online triathlon team, 2013 Ironman Tri-Club World Champions. hopefully we do really well this year as well. We find out in a couple weeks, which is pretty awesome. I think after Arizona, maybe after this weekend. So anyway, if you are racing Arizona, by the way, good luck to you all. Otherwise, I will catch you guys online soon enough. All right. Take care, folks, and have a great week.